Well, welcome back into the studio and another creation of an art journal. So I've got a lot of yearbook covers, some of which were gifted to me, and they're just the cover of the yearbook. So all the guts are out of them. Some of them are attached like this, and some of them I have cut apart like this one. So this is the binding that was between. And I was thinking of different things that I could do for the new year, 2024, as an art journaling series. And what I've been doing lately is creating a journal for the next year to work in. And last year I had done a junk journal that was made out of a paper bag. So this year I thought I would use one of these yearbooks. And so I am going to take this yearbook and alter it into a journal. And so that is what we're gonna start working on. So what I've done was, this was all together and I just cut the spine away from the front and back cover. And in doing so, I lost some of the inside. So I have made this, taken this heavyweight cardstock, and I am going to make it or glue it to the inside of this, just to give it more support and sturdiness. I don't want it to be too thin. All right, so this fabric, this Cantha fabric, the pink side is going to be the inside of the covers, and the yellow is going to be on the outside of the covers. And on the inside, behind the fabric, behind the Cantha fabric, before it butts up to the covers, I am going to put one of those Amazon mailers because I like the crinkle. And so I am going to actually sew that to the inside, that pink with the little horse motif on it. I'm going to sew that to that mailer before I glue everything together. I am going to use some of the Fabri-Tac on the mailer just to hold it in place while I sew it. I am going to let that dry thoroughly before I put it through my machine. Just don't want it to mess up my machine. All right, I'm going to go around this with a zigzag stitch, having the fabric butt up to this outside edge. Now this might be a little not cut so straight, and that's fine. I'm just going to do the best I can. So just refresh you, this is the inside of the journal. And so I've got that zigzag going all around, looks really good. And so the yellow part is going to be on the outside of the yearbook cover for the outside of the covers. And I'm going to stitch around this as well. And for the outside, I'm kind of mixing it up. I'm going to do a straight stitch, and then I'm going to do a little bit of zigzag and just kind of jazz it up a little bit. Alright, so this is what my sandwich is going to look like. I'm going to have the yellow piece that's just the single panel of cantha that I sewed around the edge. Then I'm going to have the yearbook front, spine, and back cover. And then I'm going to have the pink cantha that I adhered and sewed the Amazon mailer to. And now I'm going to glue them all together as a one big sandwich along that edge of fabric that shows out along the edge. That's why I left that excess fabric there. And I'm just lining everything up, measuring that spine to make sure I still have what I originally planned on for putting my signatures in, and how big and chunky this could get over the course of a year. So I'm just double checking everything before I pull out glues. Now I do want to have a tie on this, and so what I did was I cut off the edge of some of that cantha fabric, where the raw edge was, that they had done some, it looked like some saddle stitching there, and made it into a long piece that I plan on sandwiching between the yearbook cover and the inside panel that I had created, so that I can make a tie to wrap around and tie off. So I ended up cutting this down and making two ties, a shorter tie and a longer one, and I put them both to the back. And in hindsight, looking back, I wish I would have just run that whole thing through the center of the cover and then sandwiched the whole thing between. I would have need to add more to it. Just sewed extra fabric on there to make the tie longer, but it would have been one flatter, and there would have been a piece coming out of the front and out of the back. I was trying to avoid having anything on the front and just doing a wrap around, and I may go in and make some changes on this later, but that's what I did initially. Alright, it's time to get the first part of our sandwich done. So using this PVA glue, I am going to get the glue laid down and get the front cover onto what's going to be the outside of our finished journal, and get the spine in as well as the back cover. Now, in hindsight, I wish I would not have used the PVA glue and had gone with the Fabri-Tac, because it did soak through the thinness of that camphor. Now camphor is multiple layers of very thin fabric that they then do that vertical stitching through, and it was just very thin, and so that PVA soaked through to the front. So I have a little bit of that to contend with when I go to do whatever I end up doing on the front of this art journal. Now on the back, for the back cover of this, I did spread that glue out a little bit with that palette knife, but didn't have much more success with it not bleeding through. It was just too heavy of a glue to use with such thin fabric. So now I'm going to put the inside panel, the one that has the Amazon envelope on the inside of it, and this time I am going to use the Fabri-Tac. I'm using the Fabri-Tac because this is heavier because of that inside Amazon panel. However, I probably would have used it in hindsight if I even hadn't had that Amazon mailer in the inside, just because of how much that glue bled through. The Fabri-Tac does better with that. I would have to get it really thin and spread it pretty thin, but it would have worked a lot better. So I'm using my clothespins to hold this down, and I'm doing a little bit of a section at a time just so I minimize my wrinkling and bubbles and that kind of thing. Now for the inside, to adhere the signatures, I am going to do a blind bind on that. So I'm going to bind my signatures to a separate piece of fabric and then glue that into the spine, because I do not want the sewing of my signatures to show on the outside. I took my heat gun to the little strip that I've glued down and adhered with and held with the clothespins, because if you apply heat to Fabri-Tac, you can quick tack it. And I did that, and now I'm going to move on and finish gluing the rest of it. I'm using my bone folder to really push that piece into the back of the covers, and I'm noticing as I'm gluing this down here that I'm off a bit, and so I'm going back and correcting that as best as I can before I get it totally dried and down and cannot make any corrections. And you can see the areas where that PVA glue came through on the front and back cover of the yellow piece there. So once I got that correction done, then I go on and glue the spine and get that pressed in, and then I'm going to do that back cover. So I add the clothespins to hold everything, and I'm going to let this dry overnight, and then I'm going to come in and I'm actually going to splice some of this Acantha fabric in the same color as that cover and fix the area, the one area that still shows through where you can see some of that Amazon mailer coming through. Before I start working on my signatures, I'm just double checking the width of my spine and how it is going to look when the signatures are in it and how it ties, and just looking it over in full before I move on to start putting the signatures together. So I am checking size and seeing how each sheet will look inside this journal, and making decisions on if I'm going to glue or tape or sew some of the pages together to make a larger overall page, and just checking it out. So I've got lots of different vintage papers that are going to go into this, and that's what I'm kind of going through. But because I had so many yearbook covers, I decided that I was going to put together some yearbook junk journaling kits into my Etsy shop. So I have an sundry of them. I don't have a ton. I have about 15 total. And they will come with the yearbook, which is the front cover, the spine, and the back cover, and they're all together. And each of the junk journaling kits will also come with 2 oversized graph papers, a CD envelope, a kangaroo pocket, vintage book pages, under paper, vintage music sheets, vintage plats, some deli paper, some vintage German atlas pages, a vintage, very vintage cover, vintage children books. So the cover is they're the lighter weight, like pamphlet covers. Children book covers that are vintage, vintage Asian graph paper, and vintage green bar paper. So there's a total of 20 pieces for inserting into the junk journal yearbook that you can create. So take a look at those. I do have the information on those listed below in the description box. And I do a little flip through of what those pages look like, or so you can get an idea of what that kit contains right there on the listing. On some of these papers, I ended up using washi tape and some glue to glue them together so that they were full size on each side of the signature. Some of them I used some of the gum craft tape. So I really went through and kind of put together what I wanted my signatures to look like, and here is how they're gonna fit in. Oh, the fun part has come. So I created myself a template of where I want my holes to go. So on this one, I'm not doing the standard pamphlet, 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I have created, I think it is 5 holes, and I'm gonna go and weave in and out of those, making sure that I start with my tail being on the inside. On the outside of the pages. So that tail is going to be start on the outside of the pages, because I want to glue it in with my blind bind into the fabric, into the binding area. So now I have clipped all these pages together with these big oversized paper clips to hold my pages to make sure they don't twist or get out of sync. And now I need to just go ahead and use that template to punch the holes in my fabric that's going to be my blind bind, as well as into my signatures. Now I'm getting the blind bound piece of fabric ready. So I need to mark on it where the two signatures are going to appear, and then create holes for both of those signatures. So I'm just going through, I'm measuring it, I'm going to get it attached to the template that I created to do the first line, punch those holes, and then line it up for the second line.
Your coffee on, you stare out the window, pray that I'll come home. You've been in love before, but nothing quite like this. I stole your heart away with just a single kiss. I'm your dream. I'm your dream. I'm a woman of the moonlight, lay you down to sleep. I know secrets for you that nobody else would keep. I fell straight from the sky, oh honey, here I am. You've waited your whole life, oh honey, here I stand. I'm your dream girl. I'm your dream
It's stitching time. All right, so we need some waxed floss for this, and a binding needle or large eye needle, and I'm gonna use white on this. It's gonna be hidden, so I'm just gonna use white because I don't ever use it, and I'm trying to use it up whenever I have like a hidden binding or something like that that's not seen. And so now it's time to get started. So I'm going to leave a long tail to the outside, or the piece that's going to get sandwiched into between the fabric and that binding bound fabric piece. And I'm going to literally just weave it in and out of each of the holes, going through the signature, or excuse me, going from the outside of the fabric piece into the signature, then down the spine to the next hole, and then through that, through the signature, and out through the fabric again, and then down to the next hole and back in, all the way down for both signatures. Now I like to do the back signature first. It makes it easier when you get to that second or the first, when you get to the first signature, it's just easier to have that already done, and giving you some stability. The other thing is you'll see me coming in, I came in and reestablished those holes because from the time that I had originally done them to this point, they've kind of been, it's harder to see them now. So I'm going back through them with that all, just pushing it through a little bit more so I can see those holes a little bit better. And when I've brought that thread back up, because I go down and then I come back up, so there is no gaps in stitches on either the inside or the outside of that, I am going to do a square knot, and that will hold it nicely, but then I'm going to leave kind of a long tail and glue those in. So now it's on to the second signature. The second that I'm stitching, it's the first signature in the journal. So next it is to just double check that the signatures all sit straight, there's nothing coming above the actual journal. Then onto getting it glued in. And to glue this in, I am going to be using Fabri-Tac. It is a wonderful glue for fabric, but also for anything that has any weight to it. It will do well for this.
I've got mountains upon my chest for you to climb and find your rest. Couldn't have caught me better yourself. I'm your dream girl. I'm your dream girl.
So I glued the center, got it positioned, and now I'm going in and doing the flap on the front and the back. It's just a better way to double check that you're where you need to be. You don't have glue all over the place. You're not glumping.
You wake up in the morning, put your